Hi guys, this is Dr. Divya Pradhan and we are going to talk about angiosperms today. This is part of the third part of the evolution of the major groups of plants. Alright, so let's look at the word angiosperms. Angio means covered. It's a vessel. So when they're talking about sperm, they're talking about seeds, by the way. Alright. So the seeds are covered. Don't think that we are talking about the sperms, the male reproductive cell. No, we are talking about the seeds in this case. So angiosperms means seeds are covered. Remember, with the gymnosperms, the seeds were not inside a fruit. They were naked, and this is why angiosperms are, of course, more advanced. So they have something that gymnosperms do not have. They have flowers, they have seeds. All right? Now, what's so special about their seeds too? So the seeds, remember, of course, have the usual embryo, right? So that is the young sporophyte. Then they have the seed coat, but they have something also apart from the embryo, and they have something called the cotyledons. The cotyledons, these are seed leaves. And these seed leaves are the ones that are going to be the first leaves when the plant germinates. All right. So here these are the ones that carry nutrients, and these are going to nourish the embryo as the plant germinates, as the sporophyte germinates. The cotyledons, of course, if there are two, then the plant is called a dicot, and if there's one cotyledon, it is called a monocot. Again, what are cotyledons? These are nothing but seed leaves. All right. Here is the parts of this beautiful flower in an angiosperm. Angiosperms have flowers. All right. So first and foremost, we begin with the calyx. Remember, calyx is the group. Calyx is made up of sepals. You understand the difference. Sepals, one. Many sepals make up calyx. Got it? Then we come to the beautiful corolla. Corolla is the group name. Corolla is made up of many petals. So sometimes sepals and petals are fused together, but in a typical flower, they are separate. Okay, like for example in lily. Lily doesn't have any sepals. So in a typical flower like rose, you'll have sepals separate, petals separate. Now you'll have the stamens. Stamens are the male part of the flower. So individual are called stamen. Group name is called andrecium. C-C-I-U-M. So andrecium is the stamen. Stamens are made up of two parts. So andrecium group name, made up of many stamens. Stamens each are made up of the anther and the filament. The anther, remember, associate anther with the sporangium, because here the pollen grains are going to be made. Got it? The carpel is individual, female part of the flower, but the group name, what is the group name? The group name is called gynecium. Okay, gynecium. So gynecium are made up of many carpels. Usually a flower has one carpel, but there are more than one carpels in some flowers. Okay, a carpel is made up of three parts: stigma, style, ovary. Sticky, style is just a stalk. Ovary is the one that's going to house the ovule. All right. So let's look at now the alternation of generation in plants. All right, it is complicated, but not to worry. I'll explain it. It's really not that big a deal. So, like gynecium, like gymnosperms, these are the angiosperms. The sporophyte, remember, which is the diploid generation, is the dominant generation. So here, of course, we have the beautiful flower, and you have the stamen, which is the male part of the flower, and then you have the carpel or the female part of the flower. Now in the stamen, in the anther of the stamen, you have pollen sacs. And in these pollen sacs, which are just the factories, the pollen sacs are going to produce the spores, but we don't call them spores, we call them pollen grains. One second. So inside the pollen sac are these microspore mother cells, which are still diploid, remember. So these microspore mother cells undergo the reductional division called meiosis, and each microspore mother cell is going to now form 4 microspores. The 4 microspores are then going to mature into pollen grain, which are going to be carried by the wind or by water or by animals, insects. And then these pollen grains, say typically when the bee comes to drink the nectar, then the bee is going to transfer the pollen grain from the stigma of one flower to the, from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower. That's called cross-pollination. As soon as the pollen touches the upper part, that's the stigma, which is sticky, it is going to start germinating and form the young gametophyte. Wait, let's go back. Let's look at the female part of the flower, that's carpel. What did I say? The carpel has the ovule. Ovule has the special cell called the megaspore mother cell, which is, remember, diploid. The megaspore mother cell undergoes meiosis and forms 4 megaspores, of which 3 degenerate, and only 1 megaspore is formed. So understand that a microspore mother cell forms 4 microspores, but a megaspore mother cell will form only 1 megaspore. Got it? Inside the ovule. We are still inside the ovule. So the 3 will degenerate and only 1 will be left. Quality. That's what, in this case, the female is looking for. So the megaspore mother cell, wherever we write here, which will form the egg, right here. Now notice that the pollen is going to germinate and form the young gametophyte, form a pollen tube through which it is going to liberate sperms. So the sperm is going to enter, and once the sperm, actually the nuclei of the sperm will enter, and it is going to fertilize, of course, the egg. So you are going to have what's called a double fertilization. So one of the 2 sperms that are liberated by each pollen liberates 2 sperms. You are going to have a double fertilization. Okay, wait a minute. So the 1 sperm is going to fertilize, of course, the ovule and form, what's going to form? It's going to form the embryo. Got it? Now the other one is going to unite with polar bodies. Remember I told you about the other megaspores that degenerate? Well, they are going to form the polar bodies, and you are going to unite with 2 polar bodies. So let me color this. So you are going to unite with 2 polar bodies, and you are going to form now a triploid, because N, 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 you are going to have an endosperm, which is going to be 3N. So double fertilization, got it? Sperm with an egg. The sperm with 2 polar bodies. Where did we get the polar bodies? We got the polar bodies, nowhere else but from the megaspore mother cell. So here you are going to have the endosperm. Remember, endosperm is going to store the nutrients for the seed. So once we have this whole thing, the ovule, this ovule is going to now form the seed. What's a seed? Seed is nothing but a fertilized, mature ovule. So, and the seed contains what? It contains the embryo and it contains the endosperm. Endosperm is going to store the food, all right? So, and it is going to be covered by a seed coat. So you have a seed coat, you have a sporophyte embryo, and you have the endosperm, which is triploid. You understand that. This embryo develops into this beautiful, now the ovary, the rest of the flower is going to, once fertilization takes place, the rest of the flower is going to dry off and is going to fall down. All right. And now this ovary is going to mature into the fruit. So what did we say? Ovule forms the seed and the ovary forms the what? Fruit. So how will you define a fruit? A fruit is a fertilized, mature ovary. How do you define a seed? A seed is a mature, fertilized ovule. Hopefully you get this, okay? So now when the seed germinates, of course, you're going to have the next, again, the mature sporophyte, the flowering plant, and it'll produce flowers, and the life cycle will continue. So hopefully this was helpful to you. This presentation was helpful to you. You understand. If there are any questions or concerns, please stop by my office. And like always, I thank you for giving me your time and attention, for listening and watching to